Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
So,
wow.
How's it going?
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, it has been, it's the Easter season for me, so I'm working. I just feel like it's like the bandwagon, just keep on jumping on the bandwagon.
Well, I think
everyone
Jason and I were both we guys and girls that listen to us, we have a text that have the three of us in it, a mass text.
Yeah.
And we throw ideas around, reminders around, and stuff like that. And I think Jason and I were both very surprised when we received a text from Ian and says, guys, I hate to do this, but should we do TikTok as the subject matter for today? And we're like, don't you hate TikTok? Yes, I do.
Yes,
but
I do.
I was very surprised, and I kind of grinned and laughed a little bit when that came. I could see you just your forehead tweaking just when you had to type that.
He's not lying. I'm pretty sure verbatim. I had said, I hate to say this, but I really think that TikTok needs to be the next topic. Sometimes there are things that happen in history, or things that happen in current events that pop up like we've done in the past.
Yes.
Things like Madison Brooks and fentanyl is another really good topical.
Or Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito is another big one, and this just feels like another one of those moments in history where I'm not sure if things are going to get changed. I'm not sure if it's going to stay the same, but I feel like we'd be hard pressed just to pass up.
Okay, so for the one or two people on the planet that don't know what TikTok is, it is a social medium that you can watch little bitty short videos on.
Right.
But the origin of TikTok from the Chinese, if I may, was designed by the Chinese to steal Americans' identities. Because in some ways, Americans are lazy and complacent when it comes to their passwords on their computers and phones and things like that. We'll use the same password for all our devices, all of our medias, all of our emails, and everything. And so the Chinese developed this to get your email and your password to your email, because even if 50% of the people still use that same password, they've got your information. And then over the course of time, they developed the cookies and the Trojans and things like that to be able to steal, and this is why it's in the news right now, more of your information off of your phone and devices.
Well, I think that just goes hand in hand with the Chinese have been stealing American technology now for the last 30 years.
Or longer.
Yeah, I believe that China is our number one threat to the United States right now.
Well, we actually did an episode called Greatest Enemy to America, and I think they were number 2. I said the media was number 1, but that's a whole other subject.
I think, but yeah, who owns the media? And that's where I think the problem comes in with this stuff. I believe China's got its tentacles in this country quite a bit now. Part of that started with the exporting of all our manufacturing base to China.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I do blame that on greed. I know they're paying people over there pennies to work, in sweatshops and stuff like that. But this is just the next evolution in that same. We've put ourselves in a very bad place. We don't produce medicine anymore. Some very critical things we have to rely on China now to make for us. And I just think long term, I believe that ultimately we're going to end up in war with China.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And I've said this for many years. I think within the next 50 years, we're going to have a major conflict with China. I think it's inevitable. China wants to rule the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this TikTok is just another mechanism to destabilize us and to steal what they can steal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're sending fentanyl over here, and they sent TikTok over here. What are some reasons that TikTok is bad for everybody? I found this really great list of things that what's bad about it. And number one, Chinese influence elicits privacy concerns. And that was the start of what TikTok was about, was to steal your information and possibly your identity.
I think there's still, like, on the baseline, I think it has this innocent shell around it where it was meant to be a fun thing.
Sure. That's how they got you hooked.
Well, right. But what I'm saying,
it always starts out as fun.
Before we get too, like, off into that kind of, that subject matter right there, is like, the big thing that was talked about that I wanted to talk about at least a little bit was the fact that hold on, I have his name right here. Let me see. Shu Chao.
Yeah, he's a CEO.
Yeah, he's
TikTok.
He's the CEO of TikTok, and he's saying that it's not allowed in mainland China. It is. It's not. It is not allowed in mainland China. Like
it's unbelievable.
But
sort of like fentanyl.
But he said that it is owned and operated out of Singapore and out of America. And I believe that to a degree, but when he starts, like, divulging some of the numbers, he says, like, 60% of the company is global economic investors, and he starts, like, to break it down, like 30 and 20% are also, like, employees and other stuff like that, other subsidiaries that own. But the parent company, ByteDance, is from China, is based out of there. So even though TikTok is not allowed in there, that's still not a good enough reason.
Yeah, the platform that it's based on.
Right. And I still think that those, like, that quote unquote global economic investors, I wouldn't be surprised is Chinese investments that are still making decisions based, on the company.
Well, there was a recent president who was going to, say TikTok is done until it's owned by an American. And so I'm sure they divested it with even Chinese-born Americans, who have money. They still kept it in their little circle, but now they've divested it as a shell or a group to where it doesn't look like it's completely owned by the Chinese government.
And supposedly they're like I think he said Project Texas is what they're doing. It's how they're going to be housing.
Yeah, I saw that.
The American, it's the American information stored on American soil, operated by American people, and like I still get that, but that doesn't mean that your company is still like a subsidiary of like a Chinese company that is like that.
They're telling us what we want to hear, so that we keep it going.
You're right. But it's like, you're also like the app itself has been very invasive on people's phones, from what I've been told.
I don't even have TikTok.
No, me either.
I have no desire to have TikTok.
I would never. I learned from some friends of mine that are like computer people, but they aren't like super. What's the word? Whenever you're paranoid. Yeah, they're not super paranoid. They're like pretty level-headed people, and they're like, I looked into like what like TikTok really takes from your phone, and like your search history, and like a lot of your other stuff that like it takes from your phone that like it really doesn't need to, and they were like, yeah, this is kind of spyware. It's kind of just like taking a bunch of your information that it doesn't need. And that,
I found it funny. I was looking at this article, because I remember seeing, some clips of him testifying, Chu testifying in front of Congress. But he hired, I found this interesting. He was prepared when he to prepare himself for that testimony. He hired a bunch of people, and according to this article I'm reading here, he was prepared by former committee staffers and aides to Speaker Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He received counsel from Andrew Wright, former director of legal policy for the Biden-Harris presidential transition, and now a partner at a well-connected law firm, K&L Gates, ahead of his March 23rd hearing. He had help from several former lawmakers, including Republican Jeff Denham, Democrat Bart Gordon, a former E&C member, and Joe Crowley, who was once senior member of the Democratic leadership. So I personally believe these tentacles extend into both parties. And I really don't know who's. I don't trust none of them.
Right.
To really be honest with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very disturbing that this guy could get this kind of help from a cross-section of politicians that all have financial interests. And that's where the problem comes in. Yeah. Is these tech companies are heavily have Chinese connections.
And the thing is, I'm not even, I don't even want to ostracize just TikTok here too. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens with Facebook as well, as far as like taking your information and stuff that are, I think, need to get checked on. And even Mark Zuckerberg had that. He also had like a hearing was it a couple of years ago, where he also was like being under fire for like a lot of like, infringing on data and stuff like that. The thing that kind of messed me up with TikTok is that like it takes your data, and from what I've heard people say is that they're not. You may say something out loud and your phone listens to you and you get an ad on Facebook, but like I don't really get an ad on TikTok is what people have told me. And I was like, but that doesn't change the fact that like whatever you're searching, whatever you're inputting, it's like TikTok is categorizing all that and still selling it, just like other platforms as well, but not just to like potential just American companies. It's also just around the world and
anybody who wants the information.
Right, your location services, like that kind of stuff. Where it's like I don't want to get too tinfoil hat here, but it's like, man, you're just
oh, come on,
you're just raw dogging the internet out there.
Let's just go complete tinfoil hat.
You are just.
There's nothing wrong with the tinfoil.
You're right. It's kind of nice.
Sometimes it's right.
You're right. But like what I mean is like you're just out there, just like don't even care about what information like is being transmitted, because it's just so easy to just like check yes. Just let me access the app already, and you're just like signing away all this information. That's like, but man, you really got to be careful out there. And people don't care. They're just like, whatever. Just let me watch my videos. It's like, no, that's fine if you want to live your life like that. But man, for me,
we've all become little celebrities,
right?
And let me tell you what concerns me most. And as I said, I've never had TikTok. I have no experience in interfacing with that technology. But I watched a news program about, they did a survey of the content of TikTok over here versus TikTok overseas. And and they were, it said like overseas, most of the videos were like educational, having to use your brain to think.
Right.
Versus the stuff that shows up over here, which is just debauchery and stupidity. Yeah. And it's a great psyop to me.
From what I've been told, a lot of the stuff over in more Eastern countries, the TikTok that they have is I don't want to say glorifies, but it encourages people that work hard, and it encourages people that are stable and that like those kind of things, like good members of society. That's like a big thing. Whereas for us, they try to supposedly, I'm not sure if this is all factual or not, but they set trends to be,
When did the first social media platform come out?
MySpace.
MySpace was
MySpace.
But I know, what year was that?
Oh, I don't know.
04, 05.
Or
sometime between.
It was the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was sometime around between 05 and 08, I would say.
And I remember MySpace.
Yeah. MySpace, and then I think the next big one was like Twitter. That was like because it was like more chat-based, more frivolous. Those are the.
And when Facebook first came out, it was only for students.
Right.
You had to be a student somewhere to even get on it. And then they realized how much money was in it.
Yeah.
But it's the stupidity and the debauchery that I think is kind of funny. My son wanted to be a TikTok star. That was his goal in life, was to be a TikTok star. To the point of, taking videos while he was riding around on the lawnmower and wrecking it, because he thought he was going to be funny. So I wanted to prove a point to him. Ian is a witness to at least the videos of it. So I walked right by him one day and I passed gas quite loudly, and a video was being taken care of it. And his reaction to it was extremely funny. And I said, now watch this. Let me show you what stupid does. And I posted it on TikTok. And I'm not going to say it went viral, but it went maybe semi-viral. And I said, see, this is stupidity. This is not a productive life.
This is stuff that makes your brain go numb.
Now, hold on. So I said, now watch this. And I waited and I waited and I had another opportunity to do the same thing, just in a different format. Let one rip, and his reaction is priceless. And this one tripled the views that we had than the first one. And I'm showing him, this is stupid. This is not productive. This is not helping anybody. But this is also leads into the second thing of the dangers of TikTok for your brain. And it says that TikTok's format of short videos has been linked to decreased attention spans when the app is used for more than a couple of minutes a day. So if you're watching videos over and over, your attention span's getting smaller and smaller because of the smallness of the timing in the videos. So your attention span is now getting shorter.
So this is kind of go with me on this. So the Chinese creates this platform, and then they drop it in America, and so let's give it 20 years and see what it does.
At one point in time, it was called Musical.ly, and it was around the time whenever I think Vine was going away, and people I think liked the idea of Vine.
The videos.
It was like short form videos that were quick, like 6-7 seconds or whatever. And I think it went bankrupt or something. I don't know all the details of it. It went away, and there was a void in the market for something like that. Musically kind of was young kids lip syncing to songs. And then I think ByteDance was the one who owned Musically, I think saw what they had. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was like they fabricated it and then dropped it. I think it was like there was this other thing, and then we have this thing that can kind of fill that void, and let's use that as a vessel to then
capitalize on it.
Exactly, capitalize on it. I think it may be more in tune with what's going on. To kind of talk about what you were saying about attention spans going down, online tests suggest that IQ scores for the U.S. Have been dropping for the first time in nearly a century.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big thing. I only read a little bit about it, and that's just the first. So far, like the majority of young people in America, the actual IQ is actually dropping off for the first time.
And you see, there's maybe proof to that in number 4 reasons of the dangers of TikTok is the stupidity of the TikTok challenges that come on there, and people are going, oh, that looks like fun, let's do that. And if their IQs are dropping, they're doing stupider and stupider and stupider stuff.
I'm telling you.
And so that's one of the dangers of TikTok is the challenges, new TikTok challenge.
It also, I think we touched this, I think, a little bit with the fentanyl episode, that I think it also, what I've noticed when it comes to like viral content is it's always, you're chasing that last high. Is that once you get a video that drops good, it's like you're constantly like, how do I capitalize on what I'm doing to make it, to do that again?
Well, they correlate an addiction to electronics and social media to being addicted to heroin. It's the same dopamine release.
That's right.
And that's what it is.
The thing that really upsets me that I haven't got on TikTok, because just fundamentally reason, like the baseline reason why I didn't, was because as a person that is an artist, as a person that is creative by nature, and I have many facets that I do that in, it upset me so much to see people having these creative ideas, putting it on the platform, and then being pigeonholed into being that one thing forever. Right. If you're the guy with the crazy pants and the hat or whatever, and you have some online fame on TikTok from that is what they turn into forever.
Well, I'm pigeonholed as the guy who farted on his stepson.
What I'm saying is, and the thing that I'm saying is that if you were to make content that is different than that, the norm, and what people will say is like, oh, go back to making the other thing you were doing, or like, oh, you're the you're the fart guy, or you're the hat and
Right.
shirt or whatever guy.
And you want to be broader than that.
I was gonna say, I'm an artist that has many different, and I can be creative and change, and I have the right to do that, and that's one thing that it made me so upset to see, was like people just like being the same thing day in and day out, even though they hated it, and it just felt so soulless, and but they're getting that million some odd views, and I'm like, but why?
They're spending some money.
You're right.
I'm telling they're spending some money lobbying. I mean, I'm looking at this. In the last quarter of 2022, over about 36 people lobbied Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Just the last quarter of 2022. That's a lot of money being thrown around.
Oh, yeah.
To keep it going. And I have a feeling it'll never get banned.
The thing,
it'll never get banned.
The thing is,
it's not going to get banned whole scale, but governments, state governments, and municipalities are banning it on all government devices.
Now, Canada did the same thing too.
Yep.
But that's government devices.
But now, if we're talking about the two sides of this coin, like the information gathering side and the IQ test dropping side, like the stupid side of it,
right?
Is that I have noticed slowly but surely every other social media platform is becoming TikTok. I used to love Instagram. I talked about this on the last episode. I used to love Instagram. It was my favorite platform, but it's slowly becoming TikTok. It's just the same exact thing of just doom scrolling forever on these videos that just are worthless and meaningless, and I just hate watching them. I'm like, I used to love this platform, and the thing is, even if TikTok gets banned, it is so deeply ingrained in the culture now, I feel like, that I don't think it'll ever really leave.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think as a culture it will be, but I think that people are seeing blood, and Instagram is capitalizing on it, but then so is Facebook Reels. They're ready for it to start dying, so they can pounce on what TikTok built.
I think they're just trying to make money.
Yes,
and that's okay. Like, because Snapchat's doing the same thing. I don't have Snapchat, but I know it does a very similar thing like Reels does. I'm not saying that they're like they have some sort of forethought. They maybe do have some forethought, thinking that TikTok and the whole Chinese government thing is going to make it go away one day. But I'm just talking about the fact that, like, we are to that point now where, like, all of social media has, like, become this amorphous version of TikTok in some way. So even if it does leave, yes, we may not have Chinese spying, spyware or whatever, but I think there's still the precedent of, like, this just kind of, bad for you.
Well, they know what's selling. They know what's making money, and they're ready to capitalize on it.
Right.
I don't, it doesn't matter to me. The video is the content.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
If the content was educational and actually made people smarter,
right,
then it's a good thing. It's a neutral. This is a neutral road that we're going down with this social media.
Right.
How do you use it? Do you use it to better, or do you use it to basically make people
stupid,
worse than we already are right now?
Well, that's actually the seventh of it. Worrisome content makes TikTok bad for youth.
It keeps everybody depressed.
Yeah, I've experienced that with my stepson because he wants to do the stupid things that's on TikTok. And it's ridiculous to me because he thinks he's going to, if he does the more stupid things, it's going to make him famous.
Well, because the thing is, he's conditioned because, to be honest, he's not wrong.
Right.
No, the more dumb,
you're perfect. Yeah. You're passing gas on the deal. It generated
proved my point.
It generated all that activity because it was stupid.
If he did, if he was able to drive a lawnmower around and then act all crazy and of course get famous by it, I mean, he would be incentivized over and over again.
And I'd never have a safe lawnmower again.
Right, in the house. Exactly.
You're right. He would never be trusted on a lawnmower again. But he would, like, again, because of the platform and the people and the community that it is, he would just get told to just keep doing it. And I'm not saying I'm that's more of an extreme example of the more minor thing that I was talking about. If you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're doing this thing and you get popular for that one thing, it happens like that throughout history. But it just feels like it's so hyper concentrated.
Yes,
where it's like,
agree,
man,
100%. Yep.
your whole entire page is the same thing over and over again.
But you look at and a lot of what sells is women and boobs and legs, and it's because guys just keep looking at it and flicking through it, and then all of a sudden the
men are visual creatures.
What pushes what you see gives you more of that and gives you more of that, the analytics or however that works. And so you literally see the same thing. There's women with 1,000 videos and it's the absolutely same thing, and guys are scrolling through their videos and their numbers go up and they make a little money and they put out the same content, and you're like, give me something good.
Right.
You know, I like the ones where you can get on there and actually get some good recipes.
Oh yeah.
There's some great
how you use it.
How you use it.
How you use it, and what. But that's what I'm saying. It's what is the content that seems to be more heavily pushed in the West,
right?
Debauchery
versus the East. And that's what I'm saying. It's depravity. It's the lowest common denominator,
and also
it's nothing aspiring to higher ideals. It's just not. I mean,
there's
a reason for that.
What was that movie? Oh, I hate to do this, Ian. What was that movie? Was it Waterboy, when he had to take a test and the guy said, "We are all stupider because we heard you discuss that." That's what's happening with TikTok. We're becoming stupid,
and that's by design.
And it's by design.
We're destabilizing the West.
And I think it's part of what we talked about in the fentanyl episode recently. And now this, I think we are being attacked at our core.
Well, I hate to say it, but this probably started off basically this really started in the 50s, to be honest with you. The Russians were the first to try to basically get Americans to think differently, and one of their first things was to infiltrate higher education,
right?
And then infiltrate the culture. Hollywood is just completely eaten up with this stuff now.
Yes,
and they've succeeded. They succeeded in doing what they set out to do. You've got a generation of people, and now probably 2 generations of people that are more sympathetic to communistic ideas than your grandparents would have ever thought about being.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's by design.
Yeah.
So this is just another means of furthering that agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial, but
Sorry.
I do believe that, yes.
I need you to calm down your tinfoil hat showing.
I'm kidding. It's my tinfoil hat coming out.
You know what? We're laughing about that, but Miranda, Hottie Doctor, and I are starting our own podcast. Oh, guess what the name of it is? Guess what it is?
I forgot what it was, but I know it's a good one though.
My Big Fat Tinfoil Hat.
Really?
Yes, that is the name of the podcast.
Yes.
We've actually kind of recorded one. I'm learning some editing stuff now, which I'll need some more help from you, Ian. Love it. But it's My Big Fat Tinfoil Hat, and then it's a play off of words of, there was a show called Orange is the New Black. And the play off of words is conspiracy theorist is the new I told you so, and conspiracy theorists are up 32-0 right now. and it's really a shame if you think about it, because you really want to believe the best in people, but right now in today's society, it's hard to believe the best in just about anything. Because somebody always has an ulterior motive to what they're doing, and it usually wraps around money and greed.
Yep.
But because now it can be information, because they know that information is money.
Yeah.
I think there's problems with this stuff. I really do. And as time is going on, I see it more clearly now than I did before. But, I don't know. There's a lot of people that love TikTok.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge segment of the population that would be against banning this app because, unfortunately, they make a lot of money off of it, or they get a lot of views, especially the politicians.
I feel it's the same sort of thing that it's hard because TikTok is not just a tool. I was going to say it's a tool, and
it could be a tool. It could be a great tool.
But the thing is, I feel like it's more than that to people that bigger people at play here. But I do think that, like with most things, you can use the platform and use it for good. Like you were saying, like recipes and cooking and, even like being educational and teaching people. But again, it's like for me, like to get outside of the realm of TikTok, if you look at like YouTube has these shorts, and I just feel like I had glanced around out of curiosity, and it just feels like the most mindless nonsense. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, it's getting so many views. I'm like, how? Like, and it's just that.
I think it's a drug. I think that people want to either take drugs to get past the day or just to make it through the day. And I think that these videos are doing the same thing. I think it's how people cope with things, pass some time,
right,
and make it through the day, because the world is getting crazy out there and people need a release. They need something to take their mind off of what is actually happening in my life.
Sounds awful like last episode.
Yeah, and drugs,
right.
and these videos are doing that. Because when you think about it, Jason said something really interesting too. And I heard somebody, and please forgive me, whoever you are, if you remember that you said this quote and I didn't quote you, I apologize. Please email us on Facebook and I will be glad to give you all the credit. But they said that social media is so damaging to the Americans because it teaches us not to be thankful for what we have, but to compare ourselves to somebody else.
Right.
And that's the real danger of it is we're making us even more depressed, even more ungrateful than what we have today.
Yeah.
Because we see somebody who, and that's not their real life.
Right.
That's somebody putting some fake horse hockey up there and you're believing that they've gotten all of this through this, this, and this.
Right.
But that's not their real life. And so you want to compare your life. That's why my son wants to be a TikTok star, because he thinks all of this fame and fortune is going to come from it.
Right.
And it does happen, but not to as many people as you would think TikTok tells you it is, or YouTube tells you it is. And it's a real shame, because that's not real life.
Yeah. We're a lot of, when did we become so
vapid?
Well, I mean, when did we become, I hate to say it, but, and I've said this before in other conversations I've had, and I don't like saying it, but it's true. We're a victim of our own success in this country.
Yes.
I hate to say, but we have become, as America, we're the largest, in essence, empire in the world. We have no real threat to us. We've forgotten what it took to get us here.
Well,
the sacrifice. We've become bored.
Right.
We really have. We've become bored. So we're looking for things to entertain us because we really don't have nothing else, because all our basic needs are now generally met.
Easily.
I
mean, you don't have to work for anything.
Even people that are of meager means,
right,
have it so much better than other parts of the world.
Yes,
right.
And this is just another mechanism to basically blow time, because we really have nothing else to think about.
And actually, that's one of the reasons that governments want to ban TikTok, is because you can walk into somebody's office and instead of doing their work, they're on videos. Because they're bored. Instead of doing work, they're bored.
I don't know what's going to turn that around.
I feel like
China's going to turn it around for us when they attack us.
My generation and everyone that came after me, I was born in like the mid to late 90s, and there was this turning point in like the early 2000s where like I just feel like technology was all around me, and I was learning how to work phones and learning how to work computers and building my own computer and doing all those things. And I feel like that, to answer your question a little bit, I think that is what changed a lot of people, is like having those like first starting, like I was some of the first crowd to hop on MySpace once upon a time and like follow my favorite music artists and all that kind of stuff, and MTV was a big thing, and like the the internet was making the world a much smaller place, one step at a time, and now we're getting to that point where I remember graduating high school and having my first iPhone and like that kind of stuff, where it's like the world felt different in my childhood years. And then once I started like growing up and I hit, my pre-teen to teenage years, it felt like the world was rapidly changing in a crazy way. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is what has kind of caused this rapid growth and this just exponential growth of change and, speed in which things are happening. I remember talking about this on the first few episodes of this podcast, I think. There was a point in time where my one of my close friends, John, he spent the better part of $1,000 to get a VR headset, the original Oculus Rift, and he had to have 3 different cameras to be able to track you, and it was all wired to his computer. The headset was wired from the back of the head to the computer as well, and you had all these different stuff. It was a whole installation, and it was super cool, and I've never seen anything like it. And then in less than 5 years, I spent $300 for a completely wireless version of almost the exact same thing. And I was like, that is insane to think about, that we can go in just a handful of years and have this exponential growth of like what once was wired and kind of clunky and bulky, I can now literally carry in one hand in like a pouch or whatever, and just a bag or whatever. It's like, that's crazy to think about. And I think that really has changed a lot of people, and like especially people younger than me. Like whenever I was in high school, and like people that are born at that time now that like have like just been born and raised with like a phone or an iPad in their hand, I feel like they are different people than I am. Like I've talked to some like younger people, they're just like,
you know what gets me, and I kind of like what you're saying about that, but even the games and the media has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when gaming first came out, in 1985. Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
One of my first games. I bought my first computer because of Castle Wolfenstein, because I saw a friend of mine have it. But now, as much as people don't want to work, there's games out there that you can own a store.
Right.
You can go out and farm to sell fake food with fake money, or go out and find this, or go out and do this, and go out and do this, and, or make fake potions, or make people are willing to work inside the game, but they're not willing to work and spend the exact amount of time to do it,
right,
than actually really work in their real life.
I thought you were taking a different route with that.
I'm sorry.
No.
Where would you like to go with it?
No. I thought you were taking a different route, that like the games are so transactional and so quick now.
That is true too.
I used to be an MMO player. I used to play games like WoW. I never played World of Warcraft, but I played games that were like that, where it's very, you have to put in time, you have to put in work, you have to grind, and like it's a team-based thing where I had to like get friends together, and we all would like buddy up on a Saturday afternoon and like do this raid or whatever. And it was like, very strategic and to work for it. And now those games are like not that popular anymore, because like, no, it's all about like, just give it to me now. I don't want
instant gratification.
Right. Just all about
and is
quick.
that part of the TikTok anomaly or whatever of our shortened attention spans?
It probably has a part to play in it. I mean, people, I think it's hard for people nowadays to even hold a full conversation without.
But think about this, and it's not as recent, but it's becoming more prevalent when you have a music media now. What do you get charged for?
Oh yeah,
the ability to skip. Oh,
right.
I don't like that song. I'm going to fast forward it, or I'm going to skip that one,
because they know people are. The tendency is to quickly move through things.
That's right. Either I'm done with that song, or I don't want to hear that song. I need to move to the next one. Well, you only get 20 skips a day, but you can have more if you'll pay for it.
Right.
You can have unlimited skips for $5.99 a month.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, the marketing people know their research.
Exactly,
Right.
because people's attention spans are now a minute to a minute and a half instead of 3 to 4 minutes for the full song. Or I don't like that song, let me move past it because I don't want to invest the time in something.
Unbelievable.
So now they charge you for the skips.
It feels like the conversation of efficiency is that there are so many things throughout history that people far more intelligent than I am have made more efficient.
Right.
Just to save time or to save your health or whatever it may be, to make things easier and more convenient in life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those I think are great. And then we start getting to moments like this where like you're trying to be more efficient in a way that I don't think you ever actually questioned if you should be. Like people, one aspect for myself is like people fighting over parking spots at the front end of the parking lot. When I'm like, you can just park 5 to 10 parking spaces down and just walk. And you actually probably will get inside a little bit quicker than the person taking 3 laps from the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Hear me out. Let me tell you one of my favorite things to do around Christmas, and it's relevant to yours.
Okay.
Christmas time, when the parking lots are full, when I was young, one of my favorite things to do was grab 4 or 5 bags from the store and walk around, act like I'm looking for my car. You'll have 10 people following you, mad at you because you can't find your car because they want your parking spot, especially if you do it up near the front.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you will piss them off.
And like what I'm saying is, like, again,
Don't get in my parking spot.
Right. You are. It's things like that where like the minutes, not even probably even seconds you would save. Like, is it even like really worth it? Does it really change your day? You know, when you start doing the math on it, like trying to speed to work, when you realize that like just catching red lights will set you back like equally. So like even if you fly almost twice the speed to work, you maybe only will get there 1 or 2 minutes earlier.
Or
maybe
people
3
speeding or doing something. I remember we're from South Louisiana, and I remember back, I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, the Louisiana State Police did a study, and people were speeding on the interstate, saying, well, it's cutting time off. So they did a study where they had 2 patrol cars. I don't remember what area they started, and they traveled the length of the interstate doing the speed limit. And this is when the speed limit was actually still 55 miles an hour. I don't remember how long ago that was.
Right.
And then they did one where you would move 65 and then did one where you were moving 75. You would only add 2 to 3 minutes of your time by going the faster speed instead of just doing the 55 and being nice to everybody.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like they're like the
people are impatient.
Yes.
Right.
What are you really doing? Are you really as efficient as you think you are?
Right.
Or are you the perception of efficiency.
Yeah.
Or just get it done. Just do what you're supposed to do.
American society, we're very. It kind of goes the underlying thing when it comes to how work is viewed in America, I think.
Oh yeah.
We're more driving when it comes to our work ethic, I think, than a lot of places are. Now, I do know stories of these sweat factories and people out in the jump out of buildings because of the psychological strain. After a while, they can't handle it. But we are constantly, what's the next deal? I got to get the job done. I'm kind of singularly focused trying to get that done. And
time is money.
Time is money.
Yeah.
It is. And so we're always rushing because I can get this done. I can move on to the next thing. And we live in this kind of world constantly. We kind of run our lives this way.
But it's moving on to the next thing. And that I just had to do some management classes for where I work. I actually spent all of Wednesday doing that. And in my time, and this is a great generational show, in my time, you expected to be somewhere 20 or 30 years. And you expected that. And companies hoped you would stay around that long. And the statistics is now today, averagely people stay 2 years and they move on to the next thing. What's the next thing?
If
Who's going to take care of
after COVID, people will stay at jobs 4 months and move on.
Funny that you talk about that, Stoney, how it was in your time. That started to change with Generation X.
Yes.
And part of that is not necessarily because Generation X wanted to do that. Companies started divesting themselves of pension systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was that to maximize profits, to make stockholders happy, to increase wealth. So what happened, it things more portable.
Right.
So the underlying structures that enabled people to work in your time, to work 30, 35 years at a company, went away.
Mm-hmm.
And now it was, you're not guaranteed anything anymore.
Well, and if I can interject for my generation at least, my first handful of jobs, they were like corporate jobs that I wasn't working like, with my family and friends and stuff. I worked like at a wholesale store, and I was always confused because everyone older than I was like, you got to get a job. You're out of high school, you're making a name for yourself in society and all that kind of stuff. And they always were talking about like get full-time and get some benefits. And no matter how hard I tried, they always like rode me on that line of just shy of full-time. And I as 18, 19 years old, I never understood why. I was like, I would like to get full-time and like benefits and all that kind of stuff. And they always came up with some like BS excuse. And a couple of jobs did this. I worked at a coffee shop. It was the same sort of way. They would always like ride you on the cusp of like being full-time. And you would always try to like touch on 40 hours. And if you ever went over, you would get reprimanded because you can't get overtime. You can't get overtime. And like, but they would always catch you like and keep you like, I would say almost like suppressed right under like that 30 to 32, sometimes 35, but like you never got full-time hours.
35, you're considered full-time.
And again, and whenever you did that, and
entitled you to some benefits.
Exactly.
Stuff like
and then that was what I'm saying. Is
health
like,
insurance.
Right. And again, they didn't want to pay for that.
Right.
And I was like, and I realized that after in my older years, and like younger people were underneath me, they're like, why am I not getting full-time? And I was like, because they don't want to pay for you to get full-time. They don't want to pay for you to have benefits. You're legally obligated.
You're on your own. And I have my own issues with that sort of mentality that has evolved. And I know that there are other factors that have contributed to this sort of thing. And there's a whole political discussions on insurance, and nobody can afford health insurance, and I think that's a tragedy. I don't know what the fix is with that. But I think that unfortunately, to our listeners out there and to all Gen Xers out there, that started with us.
Yeah. Well, it actually, if I may, it started with Gordon Gekko. Yes, it's Michael Douglas. Oliver Stone directed a movie called Wall Street, where Gordon Gekko said, greed is good.
Yeah.
And his job, and this was what started in the middle 80s.
Yep.
You would buy up a company, sell it off.
Yep.
Buy up a company and sell it off.
Make a ton of money,
but raid the retirement.
That's right.
Pull people's retirements. Somebody might be a year away from retirement and you fire them or you lay them off. They don't get their retirement.
They encouraged that.
Yes, they did.
Really?
That's what I'm saying. I remember that going on and people's just having all these years with the company and just all of a sudden you don't have nothing.
Damn.
But that was a really good movie too.
For the
aftermath, Wall Street. I'm just saying, I hate to do that, and I don't know if you promote us on yours.
I do.
But I'm promoting Aftermath right now, especially if y'all will do Wall Street. You'll love it, or AI.
AI is, I will venture to say, is a great, simply because it makes you think on a deep level, and that's why I liked AI. But no, I'm telling you, that started in the Gen X world, and unfortunately, that it got momentum with us, and we pass that down
Mm-hmm.
to the next generation, which would be our children, which would be the millennials.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we didn't do y'all any favors with that.
And I actually have been writing a book for about 20 years now, and I would like for at least the concept to possibly be a future episode, but it's the disposable world also.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That goes into that
Yes.
same topic.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that goes into attention and short-term
Yes.
thinking. And, it now the social media has fed in and basically came from that line of thinking.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where it comes from. And that's where we're at today, where we have a minute and a half attention spans.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to get worse. So when the millennials are where the Gen Xers are, and your children,
Oh yeah. Well,
which would be what, Generation Z?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a whole different thing altogether.
There are kids that are, I think, considered Gen Z now that are approaching 18 years old. Like we're getting to the point now where I think a reason why we're also in this point in time in history is because there are a lot of people, a lot of kids that are now becoming adults and coming into their own, and like they're setting a precedent now. You know, like we talked about in the previous episode, just like potentially messed up home lives and substance abuse, and you know, who knows what other kinds of mental or physical inabilities or whatever else they may have that causes them to be who they are now, you know, shaped by the world around them, which is a crazy place to begin with. And so now, like, this is the new...
Well, that's the only world they know.
Exactly.
And that's what's scary, because they're not going to know that actually life was different.
Yeah.
That people didn't go shoot up schools or have all these mental problems that we see in the news today. That at one time, that didn't exist.
Right.
Good Lord, when I was in high school, you had your guns in your truck because you went squirrel hunting after school. You had a shotgun and a rifle in the back of your truck on the rack, and you went to school and then went hunting with your buddies afterwards.
I mean, we
didn't have school shootings then.
The late Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia, in his memoirs, he recalled when he was a young man riding the subway, he hunted. Mm-hmm. He brought a shotgun on the subway. Was never even thought of.
Right.
It was not even a thing. It never phased anybody. No one went and shot up anything.
Right.
Because there was a value there. And I'm telling you, this young generation coming up, unfortunately, all they see is what they see on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, or you just name the social platform. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, most of it is just bad. Mm-hmm. And it's unproductive.
We talked about this a little bit beforehand, but like another big thing that I worry about is just the simplicity of a moral compass. I don't think I came from a kind of a religious household, and though I may not agree to some of the stuff that I was raised on believing, I still have some of those beliefs. And I feel like one of those things that I have realized is just like having some sense of morality in a way. Of right and wrong. And I know that people like to say it's a gray area, but I do fundamentally think there is like a moral compass of right and wrong. And I feel like we're that generation we're talking about, this future, like that's never talked about, or if it is, it's, you know, talked down upon.
There's going to be an impact.
There is. An impact.
There's going to be, as this generation grows up into adulthood, the thinking is going to carry with them to when they start or in positions of power mm-hmm. and influence, whether it's in business or government.
Well, that's what I'm saying now is like we're at this point in time in history where kids that were born, what would that be, 2004 or 5? Or even earlier than that, are now like approaching their 20s. So it's like kids that were born around that time, like I was talking about, were just like technology was so fluent.
Now, you know. I mean, I think the boomer generation is starting to really fade. Mm-hmm. The Gen X, which is actually the smallest demographic, really? Believe it or not, it is. It's the smallest demographic between the boomers and the millennials. You have this little group called Gen Xers that were actually is actually small relative to the population. But, we're now starting to occupy those positions of power. But we're not going to be there long because the millennials are going to eventually start pushing us out, just simply because of the vast numbers that the millennial generation has over Gen X. But yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I remember growing up, and I grew up in a religious household. I loved my childhood. I can't say it was bad. I remember watching Leave It to Beaver on television. And I still believe in my heart that that's how families should be. I do. Mm-hmm. Part of me holds on to that's when society is healthy. And we have ventured so far from that. Now, granted, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, no life is perfect.
Right.
And there is no such thing as the perfect family and everybody is kind of operating normally. And I mean, I understand the world is a varied place, but that should be the ideal. And I don't see that anymore. I see a celebration of some weird derivations of that, and somehow they think that's good. I don't think that's good at all.
Right.
I mean, I think it's been a negative on this country's psyche, and
I think with the way society is today in America, I think the attack on the family and attack on faith is what's happening, but now it's becoming hugely external, and the Chinese are on the forefront of attacking all of it. And we need to remember that. Okay, they're the ones who are bringing in fentanyl.
Yep.
They're the ones who are bringing in things like TikTok and other things. And we need to remember in America, no matter who you are, this is our family. And we are being attacked from the outside. And we need to stop attacking each other from the inside and realize that we can do this. Somehow we need to figure out who we are, and that no matter what you are, what you think, don't hurt anybody. And remember, we are being attacked from the outside because people are jealous of what we have to the point that they want to completely destroy America. And we need to remember that.
America is the only thing that's going to save this world. I really, truly believe that. I think America has been for at least since World War II, has been a bulwark to, and there are a lot of places out there that are just flat out rotten.
America has always been a light.
That's right.
In the world for people to come, do what you want to do, make your money, raise your family, and be productive. And we are being destroyed from outside sources on our inside. And until we realize that, and until we band together and say this has to stop, we are better than this as a whole, America, everybody, we need to stop this.
It's apps like TikTok that's, I believe, have made us numb, that we don't even know we're being attacked.
I agree.
We are absolutely this platform, and I just want to pick on TikTok because that's what we're talking about in this episode, but you could apply that to a lot of social media.
Absolutely.
And we talked about social media on another podcast we did regarding how it's affected human relations. Right, well, I mean, it's all tied together. So I do believe that, people have got to get their heads out of the clouds, that they don't realize the larger thing that's happening here, that we've become so enamored with these kind of things that, we don't realize that we're being invaded.
Right.
And I think that may be part of it. Part of the strategies is get us so self-absorbed in our own selves. And social media is a perfect way, avenue for us to do that.
Right.
So
because we all crave attention.
Yeah.
Here's the final question. Do you think that TikTok's going to make it, or is it going to get nixed altogether?
I think it's going to make it.
I think it's going to make it.
Yeah.
I think there's too many. I would be surprised. They may ban it in government,
right?
But beyond in the private market, I just think they have too many lobbyists. There's too many lawmakers that have investments or family members that have investments, and they're taking phone calls. So no, I don't think it's.
I feel like this is going to change, though. I feel like something's going to change. I don't know what. It could be TikTok itself. It could be something, but I just feel like we're at this tipping point where I feel like something's going to happen when it comes with that kind of stuff. With it's now. I feel like social media has been talked about for a while, but now it's like in the public eye in that regard.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyways, for any of you guys who want to give us some suggestions or comment on what we've been talking about, we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod where you can reach out to us and give us your gripes or tell us that you enjoy the show. Also, you can type in Linktree /Retrospect Pod and see all the different social media links that we're on, or all the platforms that we're on as well. You just type in Retrospect. We should show up. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
You're the best. Peace.